Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for coming to my session today. My name is John Kerrigan. I am a three-time Rutgers graduate. I'm very, very happy to be here today. And I'm grateful for the support of the math department and the graduate school education for all that they've done to afford me opportunities to teach online and in person. So today I wanted to very quickly share with you my journey into taking in-person flipped classrooms and making them online flipped classrooms. All right, so in case you're unfamiliar, there's really no exact definition of flipped classroom. It's very hard to find one that works for all, but in the literature, a lot of the common themes I'll come across involve inverting what happens where. So the main gist of it is students do the initial learning outside of class, whether it's through a video or through slides or through readings. And then when they're in the classroom, whether it's in person or online, they do more application-based things. Like in math, it could be harder problems, writing proofs, doing more collaborative work together under the facilitation of the instructor as a guide. A lot of research on flipped classrooms. There was a great meta-analysis from 2020 of 174 flipped classrooms in higher ed. And some of the key themes that came up in that meta-analysis were a positive effect on student performance, moderate effect on performance compared to traditional learning. In-class activities that are more collaborative showed stronger effects. Flipped effect is larger when the study used a classic flip design. So that's our videos or reading at home followed by work in class. And the opportunity for well-planned active learning is probably the key ingredient in the flipped classroom formula. And that's from another big STEM study from 2014. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I was very scared to flip an online class, but I did it for fall 2020. And some of the reasons why I decided to do it were when we were doing it in person, it was just working out so well. We had better attendance. We had the support of learning assistants that was just so important to our class. Common exam scores were a lot better in the flip sections, in particular in our pre-calc college math course in fall 2019. The flip section had about a 14-point higher exam average on the common final compared to the non-flip sections. And I think it was just a great opportunity for building stronger relationships. I got to know all the kids in the room better by walking around and helping them versus them being someone sitting in my room taking notes for me. And when I designed my online flip classes for the fall, some of the things that I used to guide my classroom design were flexibility, resources, and multiple modalities. So I had print, I had videos, I had live reviews. I would give announcements each week with hyperlinks. I made extensive use of Google Jamboard for start of class review and problems. It also worked really well for office hours, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Strategically placed weekly study groups and office hours. I looked at the week's layout and when they had class and when they didn't, and I tried to schedule things in a very staggered manner. Due dates that were the same every week. That was something I did just to keep myself sane, but the students wrote on the course evaluation that they liked knowing that every Monday they had something due or every Friday something else was due. So help keep them on track too. And tracking videos through PlayPosit was very important, along with the beginning of class discussion where we tied together multiple concepts as opposed to presenting them as discrete single topics that didn't coexist with one another. Okay, so as I mentioned, Google Jamboard worked really well for me. It lives in the Google suite of tools along with Sheets and Docs, and it's basically a virtual whiteboard. And what I liked about it was you can easily copy and paste a link to share with your class. You can put it right into Canvas. You can put it in the chat box on Zoom. And it just allowed me to perform live instruction on a virtual whiteboard. I was able to put images and links to games and visuals for the students. So it was just really, really easy to use. And the students loved it. It was a great study tool for them to go back to. Another thing in math in particular, if I made a mistake, I could go back and just erase it and rewrite it rather than printing it out, fixing it, rescanning it, re-uploading it. That whole element was lost due to the live nature of Google. So that was a great use of it. And then I also used it for videos. I would put my instructional examples and images all on Jamboard slides and then just record over them. And when I pushed the videos out, I also gave them the Jamboard slides as a second way to access the content if they wanted to go back to specific slides. I also put all videos in PlayPosit. This is similar to an Edpuzzle if you're here from K-12. It's a tool that's integrated within Canvas where you can host, track, and embed questions. I used auto-grade questions with multiple attempts so that if the students didn't get the question right, they can go back and try it again. And like I said, I allowed multiple attempts and I let them hand it in whenever they wanted. All right, so I taught 3 different courses and I would like to just describe what they looked like. They all varied slightly depending on the setup of it. 2 of the courses were large lectures. One had a TA, one didn't. One had LAs, one didn't. And then Math 123 was a smaller 8-week course with LAs. So my approach was a little bit different, yet the same across all 3. So I just wanted to describe each course and how it looked, just to give you some ideas. So the first course was Math 250. This is Intro to Linear Algebra. It's a study on matrices and vectors. And my audience was mostly computer science, physics majors, math majors, even some math minors. It's often taken after Calc 2, frequently simultaneously with Calc 3. In a typical semester, it's 85 students in person with no recitation. And what was most difficult about putting this course online is when we were in person, it's a very computational course. So it's a very reasonable question on an exam in person to ask students to perform a calculation. But for an online class where the tools are at their fingertips to do that for them, that changed the way we lectured and the types of problems we had them do and the types of exam questions that we ended up asking. So we did do a pretty strong focus on proofs, logic, and showing that properties were equivalent to one another. Regular implementation is 2 80-minute classes a week. What I ended up doing for this course was we met live for 1 80-minute class a week where I took the whole week's worth of content and just did it during that 80 minutes. And then the second class meeting, I repurposed into time spent watching videos and attending optional help sessions instead. Just to give you an overview, the course met Monday, Wednesday officially on the schedule of classes. The way I laid it out was on Sunday night by 11:59 p.m., they had videos to watch. Usually it was 2 sections in the book. So they had to watch 2 instructional videos on PlayPosit, and that tracked their watching. It gave them embedded questions so that they had to stop and pause and think about what they were watching. And it was auto-graded, so it just went right to the Canvas gradebook. And there was no late penalty. So it was great when the students asked for extra credit in December. I would say just go back and watch the videos you missed. Like it was just an easy way to offset that, element to the end of semester madness. And it gave students an opportunity, if they did fall behind, they could always go back and watch them again. I also held office hours on Sunday night in case any students had questions before class Monday or wanted to go over something in the video. And many students did. They would say, I'm watching it, I don't quite get this. Can you just explain it differently? And that worked out really well. On Monday, we had our 80-minute class meeting. I would spend the first 10 or 15 minutes reviewing some of the ideas from the videos. Usually it was worked examples, proofs, using technology to illustrate concepts in 3 dimensions, connecting concepts between lessons, etc. And I did this all on Google Jamboard. So it lived on Canvas. I did a screen share. Then they could access it later when they were studying. Then we did 60 minutes of collaborative problems in groups. I put my students into 10 breakout rooms of about 8 students each, and I had no help. So you can imagine it was very stressful to pop in and out of 10 rooms, but we may do. We set up some ways to get help a little faster. And then at the end of class, there was a quiz on Canvas that I also had auto-graded. I tried to develop really thought-provoking questions that were multiple choice or true false. And, I would then explain the solutions to them after that was over. They had to submit their work by Friday from Monday's class. So they had the rest of the week to, email myself. I had the TA hold office hours. There was a TA at large for all sections. He held them on Fridays and or on Wednesdays rather. And, I was available for the students during the week if they had any questions. And, they were able to get help in between the Monday class and the Friday homework submission. And the cycle just repeated. All right, next slide, please. All right. We also use PlayPosit. We also use Flipgrid rather. This is a venue I use for oral assessment. I had students create a video on Flipgrid, free website. They can record themselves speaking. I think I asked them 5 minutes or less, but they got on and they had to articulate their understanding of vocabulary associated with the concepts we were learning and also tie in an attachment. So that was a nice element to my course as well that students were able to use in the online setting. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea of how the students felt about the course, on the course evaluation, one of the most important questions for me was, do they feel like the workload was manageable and do they feel like they learned a lot? And in this section of the course, our mean was 4.69 for workload was manageable compared to a course level average of 4.23 for all sections of Math 250 and in the 3s for the whole department in the 200 level. So I think the students, comparatively speaking, did feel like the workload was manageable for them in this setting. Also, when it came to learning a great deal, this section was 4.53 compared to 4.19 as a course average, and again in the 3s for the department and the level. And in terms of quality, they felt the quality of the course came in at about 4.73, again compared to a lower 4 for the course and 3s for the department on a bigger scale. So that to me was positive and encouraging feedback. All right, Math 115. So this was 1 semester pre-calc. We do offer a 2-semester version. This was all at once. This was a section specifically for first-year SOE students. I had 81 students with me once a week, and then 3 smaller sections for recitation. In addition to teaching them pre-calc, I was tasked with teaching them how to college. I taught them how to use course web pages, how to use review sheets, how to ask for help, how to get ODS accommodations, etc. I was lucky to have 5 learning assistants who were undergrads trained in pedagogy, some of whom either worked with me or were my students before, and they were able to help facilitate the Zoom breakout rooms and some study groups during the week. Normal weekly offering, as we did last year, we met twice a week for 80 minutes and a recitation right in the middle. So it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But what was difficult last year in person was the kids would have me Tuesday. They'd have all weekend to do the videos. They didn't have recitation Wednesday. Then they had another set of videos due Thursday. So some students felt like it was a quick turnaround between Tuesday and Thursday. So for this year, I did the same thing as I did with Math 250. I did 1 80-minute meeting live on Tuesday. We had the recitation on Wednesday to back up to that. But then the Thursday class, I turned into video watching time or study group for additional reinforcement. So a lot of this I kind of mentioned. I had the Sunday night office hour, just like I had for Math 250. On Monday, I had TA office hours and their videos due since class was on Tuesday. And again, that was all tracked through PlayPosit with multiple attempts and no late penalties. In class, just like in Math 250, I did the debrief on the Jamboard, 60 minutes of breakout rooms. But because I had the LEs, we were able to go, I had them handle 2 rooms apiece, and I migrated to all the rooms because I wanted to see all the students. And then at the end, we would do a wrap up and some conclusions. I did not give them a quiz in my class. They took that in recitation. In lieu of that, we did an engineering application. So we were able to take the content we learned in pre-calc and apply it to problems in the School of Engineering's curriculum. So that was the trade-off for the quiz. And students submitted this work and got a participation grade for it based on completion. On Wednesday, we offered study, if you could just go back one, I'm sorry. On Wednesday, we offered a study group if students needed it after lecture. Then they had their recitation online where it was more traditional, getting some homework help, getting feedback, taking the quiz. Thursday, in lieu of class, again, that was video watching time and LA study groups during when class would have met if they did need that second dose of review. And their weekly homeworks were also due on Friday. So we had something every day for them. But the must was on Tuesday and Wednesday coming to class. All right, next slide, please. For this past fall, in terms of, how well did this work on exams, this course has a common final, Math 250 does not. And on this course's common final, the students in this flip section had an exam average of about 10 points higher than the course-wide mean of all students who took this course. And now that we've done this 2 times, we're also seeing a DFW rate that's been drastically dropping since fall 2019. So it is working out really well for us with this method of instruction. Student feedback, as you could see, I had about 24 out of 81 students respond. And, we had a full point higher with students learning a great deal in this course compared to other versions of this course. Quality of the course, 4.83 compared to 3.41. So we did feel like they were satisfied with it. They liked the flexibility that the course had to offer. Next slide, please. What was also really interesting was when we looked at manageability, that was also at about 4.5. So again, like we're about a point higher in terms of them feeling, wow, this is something I can actually work with and deal with. And for instructional methods, that's also important. Like, did they like the flipped classroom and what was expected of them? And that came in almost close to a 5. So that, that speaks to how the students feel about this type of teaching and learning. Next slide, please. All right, last course, Math 123. This is 8-week course for students who are struggling Calc 1. They come out about halfway through and they go into prep for Calc, which re-solidifies their foundation to go back into Calc 1 in a future semester. This course had an adaptive software called Newton Alta, where students completed their homework, video instruction, and all that prior to class. And we basically do the same thing. We do a review, we do breakout rooms, and we do a quiz at the end. And some games too. Again, we went from a twice a week situation. For this course, we also did twice a week because it is 8 weeks. We didn't want to just cut it down to once. I thought that would, defeat the whole purpose. So we did meet twice a week in this course for the 8 weeks, but fully online with LA support. Next slide, please. Same as pre-calc, we offered a Sunday through Friday layout where we had office hours on Sunday. We had a study group on Monday offered by a learning assistant. When they came to class, we did the usual debrief on Jamboard. For this class, I added in games because we did have extra time, and it was more of a skill building class. So I boosted up their skills through online gaming, through either Desmos, Kahoot, Quizzes, Socrative, Gimkit. We tried a whole bunch of different games. And I put those links on the Google Jamboard. Breakout rooms, and then an end of class quiz. And we purposely put study groups on Wednesday. And, we had those going on during the week for students who needed them as well. And on Friday, I would just send a review announcement to them, telling them what we learned, how it went, and resources to use. Next slide, please. Again, in this course, in terms of student feedback, the students love the flexibility. Like you can see by how they rate the indicators on the form. They feel like they're learning a lot. The instructional design is helpful to the learning, and the workload is more than manageable compared to department averages. Next slide, please. Again, this was learning a great deal in the course. Again, students feel like in the flipped classroom, they seem to feel like they learn a great deal compared to their peers not in a flipped course. Next slide, please. Okay, so as far as the comments go, I know I only have a couple minutes left. I want to summarize some themes that came up in the student comments across all 3 sections. Students liked how organized Canvas sites are when there's due dates that are consistent. So I definitely recommend going in, if you're going to design an online flipped class, keeping things due every Sunday or every Friday so that they know what's expected every single week. They felt the workload was fair, as you saw based on the university survey results. Students do utilize resources provided, whether it's sample exams, technology spreadsheets with links to see things, visually, and positivity. That's such an underutilized teaching strategy. If you just approach things positively and spin your vocabulary so that it's positive and a gaining mindset instead of a deficit mindset or a negative, students pick up on it and they comment on that. So I definitely recommend that when doing a flip course. Next slide. Okay, so what to do differently? So in one course, I was using pre-made videos due to a site that we found in the summer. It was a site that had all these videos made ready to go, and it had like questions that you could do too, but we just ended up using the videos. And when I got the mid course, some students like, oh, we don't like those videos, so I ended up making my own for the rest of the semester. So one thing I learned out of that is they do want to hear the instructor's voice. So moving forward, I would recommend teacher made videos from the beginning and not halfway through. Breakout room collaboration, obviously this is challenging for everybody. So setting up parameters in the beginning about how to collaborate is still a work in progress. And some of the students asked about other ways to communicate besides email, and they mentioned Piazza as one example. Next slide, please. All right, so what next? Now that we have all this information, what will I do in the future? So one thing I got out of this fall was meeting once a week instead of twice a week was actually pretty good. I had 90% attendance or better in every single class. When students asked for extra credit, they got to make up the videos they skipped. That was an easy answer for them, and they felt like I was giving them something, even though I really wasn't. I felt like it gave them flexibility to leverage weekends and Fridays to do heavy lifting of learning initial content and finishing up problem sets. It removed some of the barriers that our traditional schedules have imposed on us. And then it forced me also to present the most key information when we were live. Like there was no time for, like extras. Like I focused right on what's most important because we only had 80 minutes in person. And I just thought it set a nice tone to the classes. So what would I consider changing? I did notice a dip in Sunday night office hour attendance. Prior to COVID-19, Sunday nights were hot. Like every student wanted to come on Sunday night before the week started, but that changed this year. So I'm not really sure why that is, but I would consider doing it at a different day and time. I am going to look into using virtual whiteboards for students. There's something called Whiteboard Fi that would allow me to oversee all of their whiteboards at once. So I'm going to look into that in the future instead of just asking them to show it to me or share it with me. I might try something like that. And then quizzes, I always struggle with the quizzes. I want them to come to class to give them something for it, but it always gets awkward when they say, oh, I can't make it, I have emergency. When can I make up the quiz? So I'm toying around with more flexible quizzing structures as well. All right. I think that was it, right? All right, so that's all I have. I see a bunch of things in the chat. I think, okay, so I guess this is it because we have the next person coming in 2 minutes. So I want to thank everybody so much. You can feel free to reach out to me. I am in the math department, John Kerrigan, JOHNKERR at math.rutgers.edu. And I thank you for your time. And if you're on the fence about flipping your classroom, I definitely recommend trying it out. It's something that I've been doing now for a number of years, thanks to the encouragement of many people in the math department. And I can only speak positively about it. It's been a transformative experience that I think will continue to improve and refine itself as we deliver instruction online more and more often. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your conference.